All right. Hope you guys are doing well. Wanted to show you a bit of an overview on how to manage multiple accounts. I've had some people ask me, hey, how do you organize and keep track of accounts when you have multiple Gmail accounts? So let's say, you have a work account, which is gracechurchsc.org. I'm using that as my example because that's where I work. And then let's say you have a personal Gmail. Let's say you have a coaching thing on the side. Maybe you do landscaping or you have a coaching business, whatever. So you've got another email that you manage. So what are the best ways that you can manage all that and keep all that stuff in place so you don't get super overwhelmed? So I'm going to walk you through how I do that, and maybe this can help you. Would love to hear some of your ideas below in the comments, but I'm going to add this to the new hire orientation playlist. And so hopefully this will just be another added resource to helping you as you onboard. So what is the first step? The first step I think you need to do is you need to treat each of your accounts as separate people that work for you. Okay, so what I mean by that is in my mind, I think of my personal Gmail as another person other than me. I think of my Grace account as, that's me, of course, but it's another person when I'm acting on behalf of the other account when I'm using that. My coaching, consulting, that email, I use that as a different person. So think about all these different people being accountable to one another. That's kind of how I think through this process. So that's a first step. And so what I wanted to show you is how do I do this with using Calendar? How do I do this using Keep Notes? How do I do this using Docs? And just kind of set up like a platform for you to be able to manage this and respond to these different people that I'm talking about. So the first thing I'm going to mention is if you have a Mac, and of course I'm using this because I'm assuming you have a Mac, I'm going to go to System Settings and I'm going to go to Trackpad. On the trackpad, you have different ways of scrolling using your mouse. So like on the swipe between pages, I'm going to talk to you about how to create pages, or swipe between full screen apps. That's with you can see the images right there. Notification center, if you need to go to notification. So I think that the first thing you need to do is you need to set up the gestures and the scroll and zoom that you might want to do. Do you want to do, that might be the first step. Now, using more gestures, using the swipe between full screen apps, what I like to do is I like to create multiple desktops, a desktop for each person or project that I'm working through. So I'm going to use my three fingers because that was the gesture. You can see that just threw up the screens that you're seeing, and then you can also see the multiple desktops. So I'm going to go ahead and put my three fingers down. I'm going to use my two fingers. I'm going to swipe to the side, and that takes me to Equip. Equip is an account that I have. You can see that I've got that open with Minute Grace. Now, how do I see that? Let's swipe back and let me show you this section right here, which is where my icon is. Let me move this out of the way. So you can see that when you have done this for the first time, you probably only have one profile, but you can see I've got multiple profiles, and you can add a profile down at the bottom by clicking add, and then you just sign in to the account that you have. So if you have a personal Gmail, I would add a profile there. If you have a coaching arm, I would add that there. If you have, maybe you're doing a project and you're using another account, I would add that there. The reason being is because you want the resources, the tasks, the documents that you create by that user to be owned by that user. So it's a disservice for me, and it's highly disorganized for me to try to keep track of my business, my coaching consulting business in my Grace Church account. If I go, let's say I click on this create Google Doc and I want to go create a Google Doc for my coaching arm, it's a bad idea for me to do that in my Grace account, because then my Grace account owns that. So that's not helpful. So what do I need to do? I need to slide over to where I get to my coaching arm, and I'm going to go make a Google Doc on that for my coaching arm. So this is my coaching arm business. I got a little soccer icon there. And you can create different icons for the profiles that you have. But the point is that if I want to then share that with my Grace Church Equip account, all I've got to do is go share that. So like, for instance, with this document that I have, if I feel like it's necessary that my Grace Church Equip person on my team needs to know that, which is still me, maybe Chris needs to be able to visually see this. Maybe if I was to open it up in another account, I could do that. Now, another thing that you'll want to do, and I'm opening up my cell phone here right now, is on down, you can see down at the bottom, I've got calendar, drive, and mail. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the drive, and let me go ahead and let it scan my face. You can see that you have the ability to add different people. So if you click that, you can see these are a couple different accounts that I have. So when you're creating a document, you can always go to that profile on your phone or on your computer to be able to share across people. That's one step that's going to be really, really helpful for you. So if you have questions about that, let me know. You can always know if you're creating a document with that profile because the profile shows here. So it's really difficult to make documents with another profile, but your other profiles actually own them. So that's the first step that I would tell you to do. And if you want to go ahead and log out of all your profiles, that might be a helpful way to get started. So go ahead, and I did make these desktops. You can easily make a third desktop if you need. So like, for instance, with Grace Equip, which I'm going to show you in a minute, I'm just going to slide that into that last desktop, and Grace Church Equip, which is an email that is a profile, because I manage a coaching arm of Grace Church. I'm an advisor for that. I don't want to make any resources in my Grace Church account that are owned by that or are involved in that. I want that to be for my account that is owned by Equip. So every resource, if I go to my Google Drive, every resource for the Equip podcast, for the master resources, like all these resources live in here and they are owned by Equip. And if I need to share that with Chris Rivers or Lauren Bryant or David Delk or whoever else is involved with a project, then it's owned by that account, and it's only owned by that account. So that helps me stay organized. So how do you actually manage some of these? Well, let's talk a little bit about calendar sharing, because this is going to be one of your big ones. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go to my calendar. Now, my calendar might be a little overwhelming to look at it first, but that's okay. You can, on the left-hand side, these calendars are calendars that are belonging to me. So they might be belonging to a profile, but they're separated because the profile owns the calendar. So in this example, my Culture Bus calendar, I have given Grace Church access to that Culture Bus calendar. Why? So that I could be able to see what I've got to do. So like, I've got a sales thing that I got to do at 1:45 on Friday. I've got my work hours, so I can click in and out of that. These are my work hours for Grace. If I need to mess with the audio studio, like I got a podcast for Equip that needs to be launched today, so that's owned by the Equip account. So basically, if I need to create something, let's say I'm having a meeting with a client for Culture Bus, and I'm going to do, sales meeting. I don't know. I'm just, writing something here so you can see it. Then what I can do is I can give that to Culture Bus and click save, and then there is that meeting. So oftentimes what I do when I create a calendar event, because I did this now remember, I did this in my C Rivers, right? I told you that you need to do this in your profiles, but there are different things in the resources of Google that will allow you to do it in separate places, but they're still owned by the profile. So if I was to still let's go click on my Culture Bus. Let's go open that. So let's go find where that is. Chris Culture Bus. So if I was to go to my calendar, you're going to see on that day. So let's go to that day. You can see that I have a sales meeting, but I have also shared my daily routine. I've shared my Rivers family, and I've shared it doesn't look like I've shared, Chris Rivers Grace. That's my Grace calendar. So if I happen to be in this and I needed to, I'm working on Culture Bus, but I need to probably also, as a next step, I probably need to block off this time as busy for Grace people so they know that they can't work with me during that time. So I'm just going to do busy here, and I'm going to make sure that that is owned by Chris Rivers. And when I hit save here and that says busy, even when I go over here, so let's go over here and click that. Let's go back to see Rivers. Now it says busy. So there's a calendar event that says busy. So, the people at Grace Church don't see that I can't work like what I'm doing, but they see that there's a busy. So one thing that you can do to share your calendar, go to any calendar that you want to share with someone on your team, one of your profiles. Go to the settings and sharing, scroll down to where you get to share with specific people, and then just share this calendar with the people that need to see that calendar. So you can see I've shared this with my personal account. You can see I shared it with my coaching consulting account. And then you can see that I've shared it with other accounts, and you can choose if you want to let them manage or share or whatever the case may be. So that's one way that you can manage calendars. With notes, it's the same way. I would just always encourage you that if you're going to create a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a resource for some sort of reason, make sure that it is owned by the profile that is you're working in. And then lastly, I would say share with notes. I'm a big Google Keep, so I like a lot of notes. If this was, let's find something here. So this Grace at Men at Grace intro, this is an intro that I want to start adding to the Men at Grace podcast. So this is the podcast for Men at Grace. I have a keep here. So well, let's just go to mail. Let's go to mail. So I use this just like I would for anything else. So if I want to go look at my keep notes, I've got keep notes that I'm working in Men at Grace podcast. Like it's owned by Men at gracechurchsc.org. So if I'm going to create a resource, I really, really, really want to make sure that that it is done in this, or it is at least shared with this. So in this case with this, I actually made this Google Keep note. I did make it in my C Rivers at gracechurchsc.org, but this is a new sentence that I want to add into the intro of every episode. So what I can do very easily is I can click on Collaborator, and I can click on Men at Grace, and I can share that with him. Now, it's not being owned by Men at Grace, but it is shared with them. Now, most of the time, I would never do that with Google Keep, but I can with Keep because it doesn't really matter who owns it. It does matter with Google Docs, so that's really important to remember that. When I go over to my in a minute, I'm going to get an email that says, hey, there's a Keep note. It's probably going to take a minute because it normally does. But if I was to now go to Keep and I was to go try to, if I was to go to keep.google.com, if I was to go to google.com to see that, I would be able to see that note. It'll show up as soon as I accept it. It'll come here in a minute. But regardless, that would be some things that you could do. So I know that's a longer video, but I think this is one of the reasons that this is one of the ways that you can really be accountable to each account, to each person, each Gmail account that you have. Treat them as people, create separate spaces for them. There's that Keep note, so I can open that Keep note and I can organize it however I want. But if I wanted to edit it, of course, that gets edited over on the other side as well. But the point is that you want to have a robust way of doing this and making sure that you're in the right profile using the work that you do, and then remembering that you can share that across other profiles will be able to help you be able to be more efficient in your productivity. So I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll go from there.